Before we start the show today, I want to ask you a question. What is the biggest rivalry in WA football? Is it built on history? Is it about geography and local pride? Or is it the matches that decide trophies and championships? Because across the NPL WA and State League system, there are some rivalries that run deep. Today, we're going to look at the biggest and fiercest rivalries in WA football, ranking them based on history, competitive balance, fan atmosphere, geography, and the moments that have defined these matchups. And by the end of the video, we'll answer one question. Which rivalry is the biggest in WA football right now? Let's get into it. Before we start ranking rivalries, we need to talk about what actually makes a rivalry fierce. Because it's not just about two teams playing each other. There are a few key ingredients. First is high stakes matches. When two clubs keep meeting in finals or cup competitions, the tension builds every time they face each other. Second is geography. Local derbies almost always create stronger rivalries because the clubs share communities, supporters, and bragging rights. Third is history and identity. Clubs with strong cultural backgrounds of decades of competition naturally develop deeper rivalries. And finally, there are moments. Late winners, cup finals, controversial decisions. The games people remember. When you combine all of these elements, you start to see which rivalries really stand out. If we look at the modern NPL era, one rivalry clearly stands above the rest. Sterling Macedonia versus Olympic Kingsway. In recent years, these two clubs have met in some of the biggest matches in Western Australian football. They've faced each other in State Cup finals, Top 4 Cup finals, and Night Series finals, meaning the stakes are almost always huge when they meet. Take the 2026 Night Series final, perfect example. Sterling Macedonia won the match 1-0 in front of a crowd of around 2,500 supporters at Macedonia Park. But that's only one chapter. They also met in the 2025 State Cup final where Sterling scored 2 late goals to win the trophy. In 2024, Kingsway beat Sterling 3-2 in extra time to win the Top 4 Cup. When two teams keep meeting with silverware on the line, each match becomes another chapter in their rivalry. Statistically, the matchup is incredibly close as well. Since 2021, the teams have split their meetings almost evenly, which only adds to the intensity. Right now, this is probably the defining rivalry in modern WA football. While Sterling and Kingsway dominate the modern era, one rivalry carries a lot of history. Perth Azzurri versus Bayswater City. This matchup is rooted in decades of WA football tradition. Both clubs have strong ties to the Italian football community in WA, which adds an extra layer of identity and pride when they meet. Football West has even promoted this fixture as part of a rivalry round, highlighting just how significant the matchup has become. And when these two teams play each other, the results can also be dramatic. Over the years, the rivalry has produced huge scorelines, including matches ending 6-3, 6-1, and even an 8-0 flogging. That unpredictability is part of what makes this rivalry so intense. Neither club ever knows what to expect when they face each other. And let's not forget about the northern suburbs of Perth. They have also produced severe, fierce rivalries. One of the most notable is Perth Red Star versus Sorrento. Football West frequently refers to these clubs as northern rivals, and their matches have produced some memorable moments. One of the most famous coming 2023 when Red Star defeated Sorrento 7-1. On that day, Sorrento were unveiling their new pavilion at the ground. It was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it turned into one of the most dramatic results in recent NPL history. And another rivalry that had existed for years was Sorrento versus ECU Joondalup, which is now Red Star. That was often described as the Battle of the North. These clubs had played each other regularly for decades, and the matches often produced big scorelines and dramatic encounters. When two clubs share the same football territory, the stakes are always high. Then there are those rivalries that are driven almost entirely by geography. One example is Balcatta versus Inglewood United. These clubs are based only minutes apart, and their rivalry is one of the most balanced in WA football. Over more than 30 meetings, the head-to-head record between these two sides is almost perfectly even. When a rivalry is that close statistically, every match becomes about bragging rights. Another derby worth mentioning is the Southern Derby between Armidale and Cockburn City. These two clubs represent strong football communities south of the river, and their rivalry is built on long-standing history and local pride. So what is the biggest rivalry in Western Australian football? Historically, rivalries like Perth, Azzurri and Bayswater carry enormous weight. But if we're talking about the modern NPL era, only one matchup stands above the rest. Sterling Macedonia versus Olympic Kingsway. With repeated finals, dramatic matches and huge crowds, this rivalry has quickly become the defining battle in WA football. But I want to hear from you. What do you think is the biggest rivalry in Western Australian football? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget, if it's happening in the NPL WA competition, it's right here on the WA Football Network. I'm your host, Aaron Beggs. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And as always, be kind to each other. Bye for now.